It's a question so simple that a child can ask it, and so hard that the smartest people who have ever lived go quiet when they hear it. If the universe began, if there was a Big Bang, a first moment, a start to everything, then here's the obvious follow-up. What was here before it? What came before the universe? You've probably asked it yourself, lying awake at some point, trying to picture the moment before there was anything, and your mind hits a wall because you can't picture nothing. You try, and you still imagine a kind of empty black space waiting, but that's already something. So what was actually there before there was anything at all? The answer, it turns out, might be that the question itself is broken, and understanding why is one of the strangest journeys physics has ever taken. Act 1. What if there was no before? Let's start with the most unsettling possibility of all, that there was no before. Not because nothing existed, but because there was no such thing as before for anything to happen in. To understand this, you have to give up the one assumption hiding inside the question. When you ask what came before the universe, you're picturing time as a river that was already flowing, and the universe as something that dropped into it at a certain moment. There's the timeline, stretching back, and somewhere on it, a point marked here, is where everything begins. But what if time is not the river? What if time is part of the universe, something that came into existence with it, like space, like matter? This was Einstein's real revolution. Time is not a fixed backdrop. It's woven together with space into a single fabric, space-time, and that fabric is part of the universe itself. And if time began with the universe, then there was no time before it, not empty time. No time, the word before literally stops meaning anything. Stephen Hawking had the perfect way of describing this. Asking what happened before the Big Bang, he said, is like asking what is north of the North Pole. Think about that for a second. The North Pole is a real place. You can stand on it. But the question, what's north of here, has no answer. Not because it's a mystery, but because you've reached the place where north runs out. There is no more north. Point in any direction and you're heading south. Hawking's claim was that the beginning of the universe is the same. Travel back in time toward the beginning, and eventually you reach a point where there is no more back. Not a wall you could pass if only you were clever enough. Just the end of the direction called past. In this picture, the universe doesn't have a beginning the way a movie has an opening scene. It has a beginning the way the number line has a smallest positive point, which is to say, it doesn't. It's finite, but it has no edge. No first instant where you could stand and look back at nothing. Act 2. The twist. Maybe the singularity never happened if that already makes your head hurt. Good. That's the feeling of a mind bumping into the limits of its own intuitions. But we're just getting started because there's a second twist that most people have never heard. We've been talking about the Big Bang as a first moment, a single point of infinite density where everything began. Scientists call that point a singularity, and for decades, that was the standard picture. But here's the strange part. Many physicists no longer believe that singularity was ever real. In the 1980s, a new idea entered cosmology called inflation. The theory says that in its very first fraction of a second, the universe underwent a burst of expansion so violent and so fast that a region smaller than an atom was stretched larger than everything we can now see. And inflation has passed test after test. The patterns it predicts are written across the sky in the faint afterglow of the early universe. But inflation does something sneaky to the beginning. An inflating universe never actually reaches that infinite point. Trace it backward, and it gets smaller and smaller, but it approaches the beginning without ever quite touching it, like a curve that forever nears zero and never lands. Ask most experts today whether the universe truly began in a genuine singularity, and many will tell you plainly they don't think it did, which means the one thing everyone thinks they know about the beginning, the single point where it all started, may not have happened the way the pictures show it. Act 3. A universe from nothing? So if the universe didn't necessarily start from a clean first point, we're back to the haunting question. Where did it come from? And here is where physics says something that sounds insane. Maybe it came from nothing. Not nothing as a poetic figure of speech, but nothing as a technical claim. There's a serious idea in cosmology that the universe could have spontaneously appeared out of a quantum vacuum, popping into being the way tiny particles are constantly popping in and out of existence at the smallest scales right now, everywhere, even inside you. In the quantum world, empty space is not truly empty. It seethes. Particles flicker into being and vanish again, borrowing energy for the briefest instant. Some physicists argue that the entire universe could be one of those flickers that didn't vanish, a quantum fluctuation on the ultimate scale. There's even a reason this isn't as absurd as it sounds. One of the strangest results in physics is that the total energy of the universe might add up to almost nothing at all. All the energy locked in matter and light appears to be balanced, almost perfectly, by the negative energy of gravity, the pull holding everything together. Add the positive and the negative, and you may get close to zero. If that's true, then a universe is not the extravagant thing it looks like. In terms of the raw books, it might cost nothing to make. A universe, in this view, isn't a miracle that needs explaining. It's a balanced ledger that was always allowed to tip. But notice the trick hiding in that answer. When a physicist says the universe came from nothing, the nothing they mean is a quantum vacuum, a state governed by the laws of physics, humming with potential. And that immediately raises the question a child would ask instantly. Where did that come from? Where did the laws of physics come from? The ones that let a universe tunnel into existence. That's not nothing. That's already something. And this is the trap that swallows every version of this question. Every time we try to explain the something, we do it by pointing at some slightly earlier, slightly deeper something. We never actually reach the bottom. We just keep finding another floor beneath the floor. Act 4. What if there was never nothing? So some physicists took the opposite approach. Instead of trying to get a universe from nothing, what if there was never nothing? What if there was always something and the Big Bang wasn't a beginning at all, but a transition? This is the idea of the cyclic universe, and some of the most respected minds in physics have chased it. In these models, our universe expands, as it's doing now, and then, in the unimaginably distant future, either collapses back together or resets, and a new Big Bang begins, and then another and another. In this picture, our Big Bang was not the first. It was just the most recent in an endless chain, a universe that breathes in and out forever with no first breath. What was here before the universe? Another universe. And before that one, another. All the way down, with no bottom at all. And if endless universes in a line weren't enough, there's a fourth possibility, and it may be the strangest. Remember inflation, that violent early expansion? Some versions of the theory suggest inflation never fully stops, that in the vast reaches beyond what we can see, it's still going, and it's constantly spawning new universes, bubbles forming in an endlessly inflating ocean, each one a separate cosmos with perhaps its own laws of physics. Our entire universe, everything you've ever known or seen or imagined, would be a single bubble in an infinite, eternal foam. In that picture, there was no before the universe, because there is no single universe. There's an endless process that has always been producing them, and we are one tiny result of it, briefly convinced we're the whole story. The turn. So step back and look at what we found. 4 answers, and every one of them does something disturbing to the question. Maybe time began with the universe. So, before is meaningless. Maybe the universe tunneled out of a quantum nothing that was secretly something. Maybe it's one link in an endless chain of universes with no first link. Maybe it's one bubble in an eternal foam that never began. Do you see the pattern? Every serious attempt to answer what came before either erases the question by removing the before, or it postpones the question forever by hiding the beginning behind another beginning. Nobody has found a true bottom. Nobody has found the first thing. And there's a growing suspicion among some physicists and philosophers that this isn't a temporary gap in our knowledge. It might be permanent. The question, what came before everything, may be a question the universe is structured so that it can never answer, not because we're not smart enough, but because the question quietly assumes something, a before, a cause, an outside, that may simply not exist. And it's worth asking why this question breaks our minds so completely when so many other hard questions eventually yield. The answer may be that we were never built to think about it. Your brain is the product of millions of years of evolution on the surface of one planet, in a world where every single thing has a cause. The rustle in the grass was caused by a predator. The fruit fell because the branch broke. Cause and effect is the deepest habit of the human mind, because in the world we evolved in, it was always true. Everything came from something. So when we turn that instinct on the universe as a whole and demand to know its cause, its before, we're applying a rule that was forged inside the universe to the universe itself. And there's no guarantee it still works. It's like using a map of a city to try to find the edge of the Earth. The universe is under no obligation to obey the intuitions of one clever species of primate. And this is where it turns from physics into something more personal. Because think about what you are. You are made of atoms forged inside dying stars. Those stars condensed out of gas left over from the Big Bang. That gas came from the first moments of the universe, which means the particles that make up your body right now trace back in an unbroken line to the very beginning of everything, whatever that beginning was. You are not separate from the universe, standing outside it and asking about its origin like a detective examining a case. You are the universe. You are a piece of it that has arranged itself into something that can wake up, look around, and ask where it all came from. When you ask what was here before everything, it is the cosmos asking about itself through you. And maybe that's the most staggering part of the whole mystery. Not that we don't have the answer, but that a small, warm, temporary arrangement of stardust on a rock circling an ordinary star can even form the question. For 13.8 billion years, the universe expanded and cooled and built galaxies and stars and worlds, and on at least one of them, it produced something that could turn around and wonder about its own beginning. We may never know what came before the universe. The honest answer today is that we don't know, and we may never know, and the question itself might be broken. But the fact that you can stand under the night sky, look up at light that has traveled for billions of years to reach your eyes, and feel that ache of not knowing, that quiet vertigo when you try to imagine nothing at all, that might be the most extraordinary thing the universe has ever done. It made something that could miss an answer it was never given. It made you, and then it made you wonder.